You're listening to the Back Porch Talk podcast. Danny and Jason had many discussions and debates on the back porch while making pivotal investment moves with assets. That's right, with trading cards. They welcome you to the back porch and right into those discussions about current sports news with a fresh and unique twist. So come on and join us. Welcome to the Back Porch Talk podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason.
Co-host, Danny.
Fans, we got a full show for you today. The NBA playoffs, they are upon us. A little WNBA news and a little Masters news. But first, Danny, right into the NBA playoffs and where the seedings have been set. The Boston Celtics end up obviously being the number 1 seed. The number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference is that of the New York Knicks and not the Milwaukee Bucks because the Bucks end up number 3. 4, Cleveland Cavaliers. 5, Orlando Magic. 6, Indiana Pacers, which sets up a Milwaukee Bucks Indiana Pacers first round. And I have my thoughts about that. We'll get into it here. The play-in tournament. And we have some good ones, man. We'll get into that here shortly. But at the 7th seed, right, well, you don't know 7th seed, but Philadelphia 76ers will match up against the Miami Heat, and the Chicago Bulls will match up against the Atlanta Hawks to see who ultimately becomes the 7 and 8 seed here, respectively. And then you have in the Western Conference, Oklahoma City Thunder ends up being the number 1 seed. Denver, number 2. Timberwolves, number 3. The Clippers, LA Clippers at number 4. Number 5, the Dallas Mavericks. Number 6, Phoenix Suns. They squeak it out. And then you have the play-in tournament being that of the Pelicans against the Lakers. And then ultimately Sacramento against the Golden State Warriors. The big question with that game, that last game, man, could this be the last time we see all the players together for Golden State? So Steph, Clay, and Draymond, will this be the last time they will all be on the court together? It's going to be interesting, Danny. What say you about the seedings? What say you about these playoffs?
Well, Jay, on the Eastern side of the house, Eastern Conference side, we're always talking about the Bucks being in a 2 spot and possibly facing the Sixers or the Heat. And they don't have to do that. And I think that's actually an advantage for them to be in the 3 spot just from that fact alone, facing either the Sixers, because then that puts the Knicks and Boston, depending on how this all shakes out, having to deal with the Heat and the Sixers. Now we have to see what happens tomorrow night with the Eastern Conference, and then eventually, that second game for the 8th seed. But I think it actually works out better, just at least for this first round, where the Bucks are facing the Pacers. And the reason I say that is experience. So some of the Pacers have been in the playoffs. They have, some chops like Miles Turner, for example. And we all know the Bucks are limping in. They've played like total trash the last couple weeks.
Literally and figuratively.
But this is one of those matchups where I think we also got to keep an eye on Giannis, because that's huge with the injury that he suffered, the non-contact injury.
Do you play Giannis at all in the playoffs? Realizing that injury was similar to what Kevin Durant had.
Yeah.
So do you play Giannis? Do you save Giannis from himself?
Only they can know from a medical staff perspective how severe this is. And what we've heard is it can happen again, and then it can eventually lead to Achilles, based on rumors.
Mm-hmm.
I think it all depends, man, because like I said, the way they've limped into this playoffs, I think it all depends, man, on how they're playing and how they come out. Now, if they come out flat and get blown out the gym at home, you may have to consider just letting them just ride this one out. But I think it's an interesting matchup, though, because Indiana's had Milwaukee's number this year. with
Big
Giannis,
time. Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Giannis.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where the experience has to kick in. This is where the Dame Lillards and the Middletons and the Brook Lopez's, they've been here, they've done this. Experience take over here. And,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's I think the key advantage in this series personally, with that. And obviously the Giannis injury. But all in all, on the Eastern Conference side, man, looking forward to it. Looking forward to these playing games. That
Mm-hmm.
Miami Sixers game is going to be something because there's something to play for too, right? So this is where now we see where playoff Jimmy and
Mm-hmm.
Embiid and all of them see how they shine from the Eastern Conference side. And then on the Western Conference side, Jason, it's bittersweet, man, because like these teams in the playoffs or playing tournaments, these are teams I actually want to see in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Lakers fan, of course, and they have a big game tonight with New Orleans, and they have 2 shots at it, so that's better for them. But that Kings Warriors game, it can go either way, and to see how that shakes out and how that all lines up from a matchup perspective in the first round, time will tell, I guess we'll say, and kind of see how this lines up. I'm just very intrigued with all these matchups. Like all these matchups are actually going to be really good.
It's going to be good. It's
On
going to be
paper.
good. So let me say, Danny, I think in the Eastern Conference, let's just start with the Boston Celtics. I think in my opinion, anybody against the Boston Celtics in that first round, Boston Celtics, well, that's at the 8th seed. I think anybody against Boston, I think Boston gets them.
Okay.
Right. Now the Knicks would face whoever is the 7th seed.
Either Philadelphia or Miami.
Man, that's a hard one.
That's why the Bucks maybe count their blessings for that to be out that
That's
2 spot.
that's a hard one. Well, I would say this with regards to the Bucks and Pacers. I hate to say this, I really do. I'm gonna say it. I think the Pacers are going to get them at 6. Here's the reason why. You don't know about Giannis.
Mm-hmm.
Even if Giannis comes back, he's going to be very rusty. The Bucks don't do well offensively, and they need they need scoring against Pacers. And here's why I think I will almost sit out Giannis for the series. And that's because one, he needs rest. But two, I think it's going to force everybody else to kind of play in a style and where they're not focused in on Giannis. So I think everybody's going to be a little bit more freer to go ahead and do what they're going to do. I think you're going to see a lot more pick and roll action, which is going to bode well, I think, for the Bucks. But they're going to have to score, and the Pacers don't defend, or they can defend when they want to, sort of. So
they're up and down. They're going to push the tempo.
I hate to say it, man. I think Bucks going to get bounced in the first round, man. And I think that would be honestly a perfect ending to a tumultuous season, a season that's been a roller coaster ride, a season full of changes, whether at the head coaching position, at the guard position, at the defensive end, at the offensive end. It's just been just a whole lot happening. And I don't see them winning a championship with a whole lot of happening. Just don't. So, I hate to say it, but I think Bucks going to get bounced here in 6. Regarding the Cavs against the Orlando Magic, I'm going to Magic on that one, man. They have a lot of young bodies, a lot of big bodies, and I think that's going to be that's going to be an interesting series. But I'm giving Orlando the edge there. How about you in the Eastern Conference?
The Knicks, it's all dependent on the matchup because they can be had. And Brunson's been playing his butt off. The team has been playing really well. But this is where you wonder if fatigue will kick in because they've been playing so hard these last couple of weeks for seeding and things like that. But the advantage the New York Knicks have is they have continuity. They know each other. So, and they can play that grinded out style. They can run, but they can play the grinded out style. So that one's TBD for me. I need to see where they play to see how they match up. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
I'll give them the edge because they're the 2 seed, but they play Miami. I think Miami can get them.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the Bucks, Pacers, I'm gonna go Bucks. I am scared how they play these last couple weeks because these last few games, even they just got blown out the gym, and they just look like
Mm-hmm.
they're disinterested and they had no cares in the world. They're like, whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're just trying to get to the playoffs and now they can turn it on. But them being at home, that should help get them over the hump a little bit and get them some momentum. But we'll see. I'm gonna go with them. I'm not confident, but I'll pick the Bucks. In Orlando, Cleveland, I'm gonna go Cleveland here.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is I think they want some redemption from last year. Because they look like you talking about look like hot trash. Cleveland, that's what Cleveland looked like last year in the playoffs when New York just destroyed them. And Orlando is young. So this is a lot of new opportunity for some of these teams where the lights may get a little bit brighter on them. Not to
Mm-hmm.
say Orlando can't beat Cleveland, but this is where Cleveland should step up in there, like Donovan Mitchell. This is where he has to show that he's a superstar or a top tier talent and carry Cleveland to that victory. I'm gonna go Cleveland in that series.
And so in the Western Conference, like I said, OKC has the number one seed
Mm-hmm.
to be determined about who they play. It's going to be that open right now. Same thing with Denver Nuggets at the 2 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Leave that open because anything can happen in these games tonight
Yeah.
and possibly on Thursday. But let's go to the matchups that we do know for certain, and that's the Minnesota Timberwolves against the Phoenix Suns. That's going to be interesting. I'm leaning towards the Timberwolves on this one. And that Clippers Mavericks, I'm leaning towards the Mavericks. They've been playing some good ball, man, and I think the Mavericks are prime. So that 4 or 5 matchup, Clippers Mavericks, that's the Western Conference when I'm gonna be watching.
Yep.
So some good ones. How about you?
I'm riding with the Timberwolves. And Edwards is my guy. And like I said, it was unfortunate they lost, or they fell into the 3 spot coming into the playoffs because they've been in one most of the year, and then Cat was out. So Cat is back. It's gonna be a tough matchup, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait to see it. And this is
Mm-hmm.
where Ant has to really shine and carry them. And one thing to watch for in this series is Rudy Gobert because, and the reason I say it is because his free throw shooting. So if they go to like a hacker Rudy, because he cannot shoot free throws, and free throws are crucial in the playoffs. So that watch out for that. I'm watching that because I saw him when they were playing Atlanta the other night, and he shot 2 air balls and clanked a whole bunch. So that's where if it's a pressure situation and he has the ball, I can see him getting fouled, and I don't want to be put my playoff hopes on his free throw shooting. And then that Dallas Clippers series, I'm gonna go to Clippers on this one. This one's tough because Luka, he has their number. That's the other key thing here is they can't stop Luka for whatever reason. He just destroys the Clippers. But I think the Clippers, I'm gonna go with them. I am not confident in that pick at all, but that's what I'm gonna go with right now.
And now, Danny, on to the WNBA, where last night was the actual draft. And as we all thought, Caitlin Clark goes number one, and she goes to the Indiana Fever. And let me just say this, Danny. I had a feeling he was definitely going to be number one, like everybody else. I just wanted to make sure that the Indiana Fever didn't mess this up.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only are we talking about on the court presence, but we're also talking about money opportunities for the franchise in the stands, in paraphernalia, in licensing, in marketing, in the eyeballs that are now going to be fixed on the Indiana Fever. And so the Fever has a good mix here. You have Boston, who was drafted last year out of South Carolina, and now you have Caitlin Clark. So that duo right there is going to be very interesting for an Indiana Fever team who has struggled. But man, I'm happy for the Fever. I'm happy for the city of Indianapolis because this is going to pull in a lot of money. Hearing stuff about season packages of being close to being sold out already. They've gone up in terms of how much those packages are, as well as the ticket prices. That's going to bring in a lot of revenue for the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, kudos to, congratulations to the Indiana Fever. Hopefully that translates into wins, into victories for them. But, man, this a great evening for these young ladies to be drafted. You have Cameron Brink, who was drafted next, Cardoso, who got drafted by the Chicago Sky. Rakia Jackson out of Tennessee at number 4. Number 5, J.C. Sheldon. Number 6, Aaliyah Edwards. Number 7, Angel Reese, who also goes to the Chicago Sky. So, man, that combination of Angel Reese and Cardoso, man, that is going to be Twin Towers for you, man. So the Chicago Sky is going to be very interesting to watch. Same thing with the Indiana Fever. And I would love to see that matchup, the Indiana Fever against the Chicago Sky. That's a game I want to watch. For sure. So congratulations to the ladies for being drafted. What say you, Danny, about the WNBA draft?
Congratulations to Caitlin Clark for being the number 1 pick. It was a no-brainer, obviously. And they mentioned the viewership. It was actually 2.4 million viewers estimated. And this was the first time they had over 1 million viewers for this draft. So that shows you the star power of Caitlin Clark and some of these other women that were drafted last night. And I see, the Cardoso, Angel Reese, because I thought Angel Reese was going to Washington. That's her hometown. But they passed on her, and now we'll get to see how she fits in with the Chicago Sky. But that brings some eyes too, right? Because she has her following, good or bad. But all in all, they're close in proximity, like you mentioned, between the two Chicago Sky and the Indiana Fever. So I'll definitely generate some revenue, some viewership. It's just good for women's basketball too. And they mentioned last night about expansion and I think they're looking at 2026.
Mm-hmm.
So, you got to take advantage, strike while the iron's hot. Curious to see once we get to the actual season, what it looks like and how their games transcend from the college game to the pro game.
Additional commentary here with regards to the contracts. And I was kind of curious as to how much the players would get paid, especially with NIL. And so there are reports out there, let's just say Caitlin Clark's contract, not meaning to talk about anybody's money or anybody's pockets, but the reports are out there. And according to looking at like USA Today, Caitlin Clark's contract is a 4-year contract worth a total of $338,000. And that's according to the WNBA's CBA. So year 1, she gets $76,000, 25, $78,000. In 2026, $85,000, and the 4th-year option at $97,000. She will get more than that just in deals alone, sponsorship deals, whatever the case may be. Same thing with Angel Reese and anybody else. They're going to get more money going that route. So it's interesting. I think this is almost analogous to remember when we don't remember, but Bird Magic coming into the NBA and how there were reports of where Bird Magic saved the NBA financially, etc., because now viewership actually crossed over to the NBA because you had this budding rivalry between Bird and Magic that started championship game Michigan State, Indiana State, lost into the LA Lakers, Boston Celtics. I think we are on the heels of something similar in the WNBA, where now you have Caitlin Clark, not necessarily having a matchup or a competitor, a direct competitor like a Bird Magic, but you have Caitlin Clark versus the WNBA. How is she going to do in the WNBA? Is she going to thrive? Is she going to continue her game? Yep. Whatever the case may be, but I think we're at that moment in time for the WNBA, and I think this is going to elevate the WNBA. That's why they're giving her so many roses, because in terms of elevating the game, because now it's getting more exposure, more eyes, hopefully more sponsorships, hopefully more money that can now be put in the hands of these players. And hopefully these players won't have to necessarily go overseas to get these big contracts, where they can stay here now in the United States and actually get paid like they should be getting paid. Now, Danny, real quickly on to the Masters, and where the Masters tournament happened this past weekend. Tiger did make the cut. He has broken the record. He did not fare well on Saturday, and had his worst on record score for the Masters in his career. I have to say, man, I'm starting to wonder if it's time for Tiger just to go ahead and hang it up, man. He was tied for last. Not tied for last. He was last. He made the cut, but he's number 60. I don't know, man. This is something else. But let me just say that Scheffler wins, and he wins with 11 under, securing the bag of $3.6 million. That was the payout. Yep. Albert comes in second, has a $2.16 million payout. Fleetwood has a $1.04 million payout, along with Homa and Morikawa. The Masters tournament happened. Scheffler prevails, wins, and there's questions about Tiger. What say you, Danny, about these Masters?
Jason, congratulations to Scheffler. He had a heck of a back nine on Sunday to wrap this up. As far as Tiger is concerned, man, he was playing well, actually, those first two rounds. He was only one over. And Saturday, just the wheels literally fell off, where he just fell apart, especially on the back nine. I look at Tiger, and I think it's one of those things where he may be looking forward to where he can ride in a cart. So the seniors tournaments, because then I think the way he played this weekend, he would dominate. I know his short game was not the greatest this weekend, but something to be said about that, where I think that's where the long game may be, because you watched him, he was laboring. And you know what he's been through with the back surgeries and the leg shattering and all that with the accident. But Scheffler is a great golfer. And with Tiger just being there, that helps put eyes on the television.
Thank you for joining us at Back Porch Talk Podcast. You can also join us on Twitter by tweeting us at @back_podcast. For more information, you can go to our website, which is backporchtalkpodcast.com. You can also email us at backporchtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Again, thank you for joining us, and remember that there's enough hate in the world, so go ahead and spread a little love.